Hello, everyone. This is another episode of Fred Speaks. And just wanted to get on quickly and talk about a subject that we all probably have experienced some point in our lives. Uh, but wanted to talk about vulnerability in regards to friendships and relationships. And when I think about vulnerability, I think about, being capable or susceptible to being wounded or hurt. And nobody wants to be hurt. Everybody wants to have relationships in which they feel that they will be treated um, by others, how they want to be treated, and how they treat others. And so they're looking for the same thing in return. So if I treat you right, then you should treat me right as well. Unfortunately, that's not how life works, and everybody is not thinking the same way and have the same values and different things like that. So but you can't live a life which in which you are afraid to have relationships, friendships, relationships, because then you will find yourself to be stagnant and not growing, because we do grow in our relationships with others. We experience things, we learn things, and if we don't have those uh, experiences, then there's no growth. And so it's good to have relationships, whether they're good or bad, you know. And but vulnerability is something that nobody wants to be vulnerable. Nobody, you hear people like, no, I'm not going to put myself out there like that because I feel like I'm going to be hurt or they're going to take advantage of me. But, that's all part of growing, learning. You learn from experiences. If someone hurts you, you learn from that. At the time, it's painful because nobody wants to be hurt. But then you learn from it and you grow and you move on. And because of the experience, there's things that now you can look for as you're interacting with new people. And so vulnerability, it brings about, it can be bring about a fear that afraid to interact with people. I'm afraid to open up to other people because when I open up, then I'm going to expose myself, you know to possibly be hurt. And but that's all part of life, and like I said, nobody wants to be hurt. um so then, how do we deal with vulnerability? I mean, how do we take it and use it as a stepping stone, uh, instead of it controlling us and keeping us from meeting new people, developing new relationships? How do we use it as a tool or a springboard that we might be better with our interaction with others? And so I was thinking about it. The first thing when it comes to vulnerability is to, you know it's you may call it reverse psychology or whatever, but to, instead of thinking like, oh, he or she is going to hurt me or they're going to hurt me, look at it in a different perspective, that this person could be a great help and asset in my life, that I can learn a lot from this person, or, you know, this person, I see where I can be a help to this person, and instead of looking at the negative that, I'm going to be hurt, if I open up, if I extend myself, I'm going to be hurt. And instead of looking at it that way, just look at it in a way that, you know, there's some good and something positive that can come out of the friendship or relationship. And I want to, kind of transition into a relationship, so, there's this person that you want to be more than just friends. And that's where, most people are like, I don't want to be vulnerable. I don't want to be expressing all my feelings and telling them, how much I care about them and all this kind of stuff. And they, you know, and your thought process is they're not going to, give you that same feedback like how they feel about you. And possibly they may not even say anything, but that doesn't mean that they don't care for you and possibly feel the same way. But most people, or some of us, express ourselves in some, we're more open and we like to express how we feel and our thoughts and all that stuff. Whereas others, they may not, express it verbally, but they, they're affectionate and stuff, and so they show it in other ways. Um, and so, but that doesn't mean that they don't feel the same way or don't care. Um, but I think that's one of the biggest things, like putting yourself out there, opening up, and it's like, dang, I'm like target practice or something. My heart is exposed, and the darts are gonna hit me in my heart. And that's a chance that you have to take in relationships. Is that it could be the greatest relationship ever, or it could be the worst. But it's a chance you take because you're willing, um, to allow yourself to go through the experience. Now, if you're hurt in the experience, you learn from it. You learn from it. You look the signs, the different things you may have ignored or whatever, and you have those things as tools in your toolbox, that when you start to interact with someone new, you have some things to kind of look for, that, signs that, okay, this, I see where this is going. But we can't be afraid to be vulnerable, because what kind of experience would that be, in having relationships, if you're always on, high alert, like, oh my God, they're gonna hurt me, they're gonna hurt me, they're gonna do this to me, they're gonna, you know, instead of like, you know what, I'm gonna enjoy the moment, I'm going to, enjoy getting to know this person, and what I'm saying, and in time I will open up, and what I'm saying, let things happen naturally, you know, and it's a process. But if you're so locked in on, I don't want to be vulnerable, I don't want to be vulnerable in regards to relationships, and then you kind of hinder yourself, because then now you're on this alert, high alert, and what I'm saying, and there's nothing there, but you're on high alert anyway, because you don't want to allow yourself to be open. And I'm not saying going around just, hey, here's my heart, just opening yourself up to everybody there. And that's why I say you learn from your experiences. If you had some bad experiences or even good experience, you learn from that, and you know what to look for, and things that you want, in a relationship. You know the things that you don't want, and I think the other thing is communication. You can't go in and you're not communicating, expressing to this other individual, of things of what you. I'm not saying giving them the roadmap to your heart, but at least let them know, from a high level, like, hey, these are the things that I'm looking for, and I would like to have in a relationship. you know but like I said, you don't want to give them the roadmap to, like, yeah, do this, do this, do this, and do this, and then you got my heart. No, let this person work to gain the trust and and access to your heart. And so, but vulnerability, I believe it is something that we all experience. And like I said, nobody wants to put themselves out there and be target practice, basically. But you're protective of your heart, which you should be. But we shouldn't have that fear, like, oh, they're gonna hurt me, or they're gonna do this to me, or whatever. I'm going in. If I meet someone, I'm going in with the expectation. Obviously, something drew me to the person, and so I want to get to know them. I want to get to know them, and I know that there'll be a point or a time where I feel vulnerability, meaning that, okay, now my feelings are involved, and I feel myself, letting down my guard, and I want to be open to this person. I want to share more. I want to be around this person more. I want them to know me, and I want to know them. And in that process, you find yourself being vulnerable. But it's nothing to be afraid of. And I'm not saying going with this naive mindset, but even though you may be vulnerable, or you find yourself being vulnerable, um, you still need to have in your mind that, hey, I've had experiences, good and bad, and I know what to look for. And so you don't just throw that out the window because your feelings is involved, but you need to always utilize your experiences, and no one person, everybody is not alike. Everybody is not the same, and it's easy to put everybody in a single bucket. But we have different personalities and ways and stuff like that, and there may be some common trait or characteristic that is a red flag. But like I said, everybody is not the same. But if you see something that has been an issue for you in the past, then you shouldn't ignore that. You shouldn't ignore that. Even if you don't say anything to the other person, you should, in your mind, you should be evaluating that. Is this the same thing that I experienced in a previous relationship? And if you find yourself coming back saying yes, 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 it is the same thing, then either you need to have a conversation with this individual, or you need to step back and start to move away from it if that's not something you want to continue to pursue. But vulnerability, it is not, I mean, it's not a scary thing. I think anybody, you know that when it comes to matters of the heart, you just don't want to open up and have your heart exposed like that. But when you find somebody that is worth opening up to, and you all have that love and care for each other, and you get along with each other, and you bring out the best in each other, then hey, I don't see anything wrong with being vulnerable, exposing yourself to this person, you know, and it's part of life. If we get hurt, it's part of life. We hurt, we cry, but then eventually we get up and we move forward. And also, not only could it be a bad experience, but it could be a great experience. Even though we're vulnerable, something great can come out of it. And I believe all things work together for the good. That to them that love God. And so if something happened in my human mind and everything, it may appear to be bad, but there may be something good to come out of it because I was able to learn something from it, something I can use going forward. And so let us, not run from vulnerability, but let's face it, let's deal with it. It's part of the whole relationship thing and, friendships. We all get to that point where you feel like, I'm vulnerable. I'm opening myself up. I feel like I'm going to be hurt, but there is a possibility that it could turn out to be a great friendship or a great relationship. So I just wanted to share those thoughts with you tonight on vulnerability, and let us embrace it, and face it, and don't let it hinder us from having some good friendships and relationships. Good night.